Welcome to the 10-Minute Car Sales Talk Podcast, where it's all about life in the car business. Telling you like it is, here's the man with the plan, Terry Cameron.
Welcome back to another episode of the 10-Minute Car Sales Talk Podcast. I'm Terry Cameron. A long time ago, about 25, 30 years ago, after getting out of the Army, I decided I wanted to become rich. So what I was going to do was sell life insurance. Now, I knew they were rich because these guys hung around the barracks all the time and they all dressed really nice. And the way I grew up, anybody that dressed in a nice three-piece suit had to be rich. Well, I learned later that's not necessarily true. But back in those days, in the door-knocking days, it was important for an insurance salesperson to have a book of business. And usually when they got started out, their boss handed them a book of business. And it wasn't normally or usually the best. They just gave you a list of customers that were hard to work with. Rarely did they reach out to you, and rarely could you even talk to them. But that was your book of business to start your career with. That didn't last very long because luckily I met a gentleman that owned a car dealership that talked me out of going that way into the direction I'm at right now. So I want to talk about what we need to do also as car salespeople, even today, and that's building our book of business. I want you to understand that successful people do what unsuccessful people won't do, not can't do. Now, why do we need to build our book of business? Well, there's several reasons. There's those economic downturns, those slow months that we all seem to have every once in a while. Any slow periods during any month, whenever there's reduction of floor traffic because of bad weather, to keep your income steady and increase it on a regular basis. Eventual autonomy, where you work strictly for yourself, by appointment only, not waiting for ups, and depending upon where you're at in your career, maybe or even early retirement. According to a recent NADA finding, 80% of the people who purchase a vehicle will forget their salesperson's name within a year. These following numbers represent how often we as salespeople contact our customers. 90% are never contacted a second time after purchasing their vehicle. 96% are never contacted a third time. Only 2% are ever contacted 4 times or more, and yet 95% of the people own a vehicle will replace that vehicle. They'll buy another car. But because we don't reach out to these people and stay in touch with them, we're stuck working with fresh ups. Let me ask you this question. Who's easier to work with? A fresh up or maybe a be-back, referral, or repeat customer? Well, let's look at these statistics. A fresh up, the closing ratio is 17%. A be-back is 67%. A referral, 68%. And a repeat customer is 72%. I don't know, but it makes sense to me to spend my time with those 60 and 70% closing ratio folks than at 17%. Not to mention, you make more money and they're so much more fun to work with. Now, how important would you say a book of business is? I want you to consider this. Each customer you sell is capable of delivering 6 referrals per year. You need to understand that not each of these prospective buyers will purchase from you. In fact, the true number is close to 5%. What do you think this means to you? I don't know. If you sell 10 cars a month for 1 year, you've delivered 120 customers. If each of these customers can present you with 6 referrals, you'll have 720 prospects during that year. So let's break down those numbers. 5% of that 720 is 36. Let me ask you this. Could you use an extra 36 sales this year? What would that do to your standard living, your economic bottom line? Well, let's add it up. Let's say your average commission per sale is $350. That means 36 sales is an additional $12,600 a year, or another $1,050 per month. Let me ask you, what job can you go to and tell your boss, hey, I want a $1,000 a month raise. I want a $12,000 raise this year, and get it. Well, the great thing is that each customer is going to be capable of delivering 6 prospects each year should you elect to stay in touch with them. Over 3 years, your first year of sales will account for 2,160 referrals, or, get this, an additional 108 sales, or $37,800 more per year. So let me ask you this again. How important is a book of business to you? Again, let's look at this. If you sell 10 cars per month, that's 120 customers per year. If you only get 3 referrals per customer, that's 360 prospects. You'll sell 5% of them, so that's an additional 18 sales per year. Or $350 per copy would be $6,300 a year. Remember, that's only 3 referrals per customer. So again, if you're only doing 3 referrals per customer, your first years will account for 1,080 referrals over 3 years, or an additional 54 sales, or about $19,000 more dollars. Again, I'm asking you this. How important is a book of business? Now let's do this. Let's say you decide to make 5 easy prospecting contacts per day, just 5 days a week. That's 20 days per month, which means you've contacted about 100 people. Keeping in mind that 30% of them have a buyer in the family within the next 90 days. Now, they may not know they're going to buy the car, but they will. 30% of those people have a family member buying a car in the next 3 months. So that would be 30 people in total. That means on average you'll find 10 buyers per month who plan to purchase within the next three months. So 5 contacts times 20 days is 100 contacts per month. Times 30% buyers, that means 30 buyers in the next 3 months, or 10 per month. How many buyers will you talk to in 1 year from those 5 calls per day? Over the course of a year, you've talked to over 360 buyers based on those 5 calls a day. 360 buyers that you'll talk to in 1 year. Now remember, if you keep working the list on every 45 to 90 days, this example doesn't even include the buyers that just come into the market naturally. This math is only about the benefit of making the very first call. So in real life, if you consistently make these 5 calls per day and consistently manage your 45 to 90 day master list, you can more than double these opportunities. So I'm going to ask you again, how important is building your book of business? I know everybody says, yeah, that sounds great. And if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. So let's look at this. How many of those people would you realistically deliver? You got to buy into all the facts here. Remember, people lie, numbers don't. Remember, all the facts we've covered, remember, you're talking to people who already like, know, and trust you and your dealership. You'll have a 60% chance of them coming in for an appointment and a 67% chance of making the sale when they do come in. So here's the math. You've uncovered 360 buyers in 12 months, just from 5 calls per day. 50% will schedule and keep an appointment. That means 180 of them are going to show up and give you a chance to show them a car and give them an opportunity to buy. And based on the statistics we talked about, 67% of them will buy after you follow all these steps and give them a good presentation, good demonstration, and treat them like a professional. That's an extra 120 sales in the next 12 months from 5 extra contacts per day. My friend Joe Verdi says, if that seems too high, just cut it in half. Now here's another thought. What if in the beginning, instead of those 5 contacts per day, if you made 10, 15, or 20 contacts per day instead? I'm going to ask you again, how important is building a book of business? This business is so lucrative and it's so much more fun when you come to work every day. You open up your planner, or in this case your CRM, and you have 3 appointments scheduled for the day. All of these people are coming in asking for you by name, so you don't have to start fresh with them trying to get them to like, trust, and respect you. They already do that. They're going to close a lot easier at a much higher gross. Not only are you going to get paid like a professional, you're going to be a professional. Just give it a shot. Build your book of business. Get to the point to where you're autonomous. You're dealing with customers that you want to deal with. And you do it strictly by appointment. You bring in your own customers. You bring in your own business. You sell your own cars. And you make a lot of money. So, one more time. How important is building a book of business to you? I want you to think about it. It's worth way too much money. And like Dave Anderson said, if this is important to you, you'll find a way to do it. If it's not important to you, you'll just make excuses why you can't do it or won't do it. Remember, the sky's the limit. I'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Please rate it on iTunes and visit the 10minutesalestalk.com website to send an email. We appreciate your valuable feedback, and don't forget to share the show with a friend.